Hi, Gonzalo. Thank you so much for joining me on By the Rules. How are you?
Very good, very good. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Of course. And where are you joining us from?
Today I'm in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria in Spain, the islands of Spain by the coast of Morocco.
Very interesting. So, I'll like for a little bit of context, I was going through LinkedIn and, researching a bit about digital nomadism, and that's how I found you. And yeah, we connected, and it was very interesting for me to see that, okay, there's a big community of digital nomad people, and it's more institutionalized in a certain sense. So, can you talk to me a little bit about how did this begin? How did you get on this journey to become a digital nomad, and how long back was this?
I think it started over 12 years ago, actually, 11, 12 years ago. I was working in
Okay.
office with four monitors in front of me. And in the middle of the night, I read an article about someone who was working with their laptop in Bali, in this
Mm-hmm.
tropical lifestyle, having massages in the middle of the day. And I said, what the hell? Why they can have this life and I'm here in the office at 3 in the morning working my
Right.
ass to actually make some money? And so I
Yes.
started researching. I went down the rabbit hole. I will start researching,
Mm.
reading everything, listening to all the podcasts, checking all the YouTube
Right.
videos, everything I can put my hands on. I was trying to get knowledge about this lifestyle that was very curious, and it really aligned with what I wanted to do, which was traveling, working, building something. And
Mm.
it took me 5 years to actually engage in this lifestyle, to actually become a digital nomad. And yes, my first plane
Okay.
ticket was to Bali. So I think I started like 7 years ago, and first
Yeah.
ticket to Bali was really cool. But yeah, it took me 5 years to go from learning about the lifestyle and actually adapting my work to be able to live the lifestyle. So I was working in the office in a work that I
Mm.
couldn't do remotely. So I had actually to move careers, go to account management, learn about email marketing, keep learning
Okay.
every single day to actually be able
Yeah.
to work remotely and become a digital nomad.
So, was it hard, the transition? And just out of curiosity, what did you do for work before?
I was actually working in sports data, so I was checking the
Okay.
whole in the betting industry. I was responsible for many events that were happening
Mm-hmm.
live, that then would
Mm-hmm.
allow you in the betting companies to bet live on volleyball, football, any sports actually. And so
Okay.
basically, my job was to control the scores, control the scouts that were inside the arenas, check if everything was okay in like 5, 6 games at the same time, which was super fun,
Okay.
especially because I did mostly volleyball and I'm a volleyball player. So my job
Okay.
was to watch 5 volleyball match at the same time and see if the score was correct, if everything was correct, etc.
Okay.
And it took me a while, yeah, because that's not a skill that's transferable to anything else. I started this profession while I'm Portuguese. So I was based in Aveiro, a city where I was studying before, and then I
Okay.
moved to Germany to the best company in the world, doing what I was doing. And when I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to learn email marketing and change careers, I actually moved to Poland, to Gdynia, in the north of Poland, because that's where the HQ of this email marketing company was. And so I moved to Poland to
Mm-hmm.
learn everything about email marketing. Working in this startup was super fun, and
Nice.
yeah, so my last proper job was in Poland.
So you told me that the first plane ticket was to Bali. So from there to actually founding NomadX and like building a community, I of course won't ask you to go into every step in the way, but what were the major milestones and what were the best parts of it? What were the most challenging parts of it? Like when you look back at it, how do you look back at that journey?
I think I understood very early the power of remote work through all the study
Okay.
that I did. So for me, it was a
Mm-hmm.
lot about remote work is empowering me to work from Bali. But at the same time, I saw the work of Grow Remote in Ireland, and they were
Right.
educating people to work remotely so they could move out of cities to go to live in rural areas of Ireland and have
Mm.
less pressure in Dublin. At the same time, I was watching Tulsa Remote getting born, and they using remote work to attract people to grow their
Okay.
city. So I saw all
Mm-hmm.
these different ways that remote work was being used to build communities and to actually be something bigger than digital nomadism. And then I understood
Mm-hmm.
that what took me to Bali was the community. Like Bali is nice, it's
Right.
beautiful, of course, but it's not.
Yeah.
I would never go there if there is not a strong community of entrepreneurs, of
Yeah.
people doing really cool things. So
Yeah.
I went to Bali for that reason. Then I went to
Mm.
Chiang Mai for the same reason. Chiang Mai is in the
Mm.
mountains. I'm a beach
Right.
person. I'm
Okay.
Portuguese. I grew up by the ocean, but I ended up going to the mountains because there was a very good community there. And so
Right.
I understood that digital nomads and people in general actually move between communities, not necessarily between places. And
Mm.
I that was true for myself. I was following my community, I was following my people, my tribe, and I understood we
Mm.
all try to follow our tribe. If you do yoga, you
Right.
tend to hang out with people that do yoga in
Yeah.
places that promote yoga. And the same is true if you're an entrepreneur. Many people went to San Francisco because that's where most entrepreneurs were living before the pandemic. And so you
Right.
follow the tribe when you go to places where your tribe are. And so once we started this Nomads Madeira and then Nomad X was a lot about this. Can we build a tribe from scratch? Can we build a community from scratch in the beautiful place that was the Nomad Village in the island of
Mm.
Madeira? Can we
Mm.
build a community from zero and make this
Mm.
little village a thriving hub for digital nomads? And
Yeah.
with all the learnings from Grow Remote, from Bali, from Sende, which is a co-living in the village in the rural Spain, I
Right.
got all these learnings and I built my own vision to it, which was
Mm.
one
Mm.
centralized co-working space, having daily events, having a very strong community leader, and making sure that things were connected, nomads, locals,
Mm.
where do you buy your stuff, where do your money
Right.
goes, like connect all these dots to develop a whole destination from scratch.
Mm.
And then NomadX became that. NomadX before was actually a website like Airbnb. And
Mm-hmm.
when we started again, it became a community hub. And now
Okay.
we are building communities, we are building events, and we are creating as much as possible with this crazy vision of creating 50 communities, physical communities in the next five
Wow.
years for our big nomad tribe.
That sounds like a big mission. That's pretty cool. And so that brings me to the Nomad World. Is it a conference? What is nomadworld.org?
Nomad World is actually a 1 week conference slash festival slash experience where we have like
Very
five
cool.
tracks. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. First, we have the best stage on the world. Our stage is at the beach. This is our second year, and you can literally go swim in between sessions. Not many
Nice.
conferences can say that. And at the same time, it's about lifestyle. It's about building this kind of pop up village for 1 week where nomads, 400, 500 nomads, really the ones that want to create their business, that want to
Mm.
create something else, that don't just want to have a job. Those are the
Right.
people we are attracting because we are talking a lot about AI for entrepreneurs, solopreneurship, indie hacking,
Right.
a lot of entrepreneurship, and even the in the nomad economy, which is co-working spaces, co-living spaces, etc.
Right.
All that is part of the nomad world. So if you are looking for actually creating a business, any type of business, this will be the place to be. But then we are
Okay.
nomads, so
Yeah.
we like to work by the sea. We like to
Yeah.
swim, so we have like wine tasting, boat trips. We have the
Very
whole
cool.
lifestyle connected. So it's learn, enjoy, and connect with like-minded people. And yeah, it's going to be this October. Super excited for that, actually, 7 to 13th of October. And I cannot wait. I'll be there in 1 month to prepare everything. And I'm very
Wow.
excited to go back to the south of Portugal, to Albufeira, to go to the beach and actually prepare this crazy experience.
Right, that's pretty cool because I was same similarly as you. My first ticket was to Bali, and I went and I experienced the whole. It's not the place, but it's the community, and when people who are doing similar stuff come together, it's just so empowering. So
Yeah.
around that, it's kind of a controversial question, but I will ask you that: is digital nomadism a fad? Like, is it here to stay, or is it just like something cool for the next decades or so?
No, I think it's here to stay. I think remote work is the real power tool here. I think
Mm.
nomadism became an outcome from remote work, and with the growth of remote work, that's basically becoming
Right.
normalized. Even if you see in the news back and forth, in the back
Mm.
end, companies are actually becoming borderless and hiring remote
Right.
people from anywhere.
Mm.
So this is the future. Also, we see a lot of people going as a solopreneur nowadays because with the
Mm.
AI, you need to learn much. You can literally create your business, launch your business, and do everything in between.
Yeah.
So because of this, people like me that love to travel, people like you that love to connect and explore different cultures, will always have this lifestyle. It can be faster. Most people in the beginning go very
Yeah.
fast, and sometimes they burn out. It can be slower. Now I like to have a
Yeah.
base where I stay 5 months
Yeah.
and then I travel the rest of the time, and then I like to go
Nice.
back home, whatever home
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I think there are different rhythms, there are different flavors to the nomad world. But in
Right.
reality, this lifestyle of saying, I don't need to buy more things, I don't need to buy a house,
Correct.
I don't need to buy a car, I can buy experiences, I can live with the freedom and choose with my feet where I want to be, what I want to support, with whom I want to connect. And
Hmm.
this is quite powerful. So just because of the power of this lifestyle, the power that we have to choose and to be free, this is a
Right.
freedom lifestyle. I believe that nomadism is here to stay, because if you want to travel, if you want to explore the world, if you want to find like-minded people, and it's not
Hmm.
wherever you are living right now,
Right.
nomadism is the tool to do all that and so much more.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. But so a lot of my friends around me, they are they are inspired on one hand, but on the other hand, just like me, they're a bit hesitant because they don't know what it's going to look like, because there's so much uncertainty that surrounds not having a base, like in the early days, right? And now
Yeah.
you've built a system and balance. And to be honest, I am of that opinion also, that I need to have a base which I can call home. And then, half the year I can be traveling around. And for me, that is what nomadism is. But to somebody who's just starting out and somebody who wants a taste of this lifestyle, just to put it in very practical terms, what is the kind of finances that they need? Do they actually need, like, they say that 6 months of income or 12 months of savings? Or have you explored other alternative ways of doing it?
Well, if you have a salary, I think just do it. Meaning, if you have a remote job and you know you get 3, 4K a month, like
Yeah,
that's more than enough for 80% of the world right now. So it's quite cool.
correct. Yeah, yeah,
If you are an entrepreneur, I do understand there is more uncertainty, and this
yeah,
changed, right? Because before the pandemic, most of the nomads were entrepreneurs or freelancers.
yeah,
So the
yeah,
uncertainty was huge, and this was a big
yeah.
team. Now it's so much easier because most of people, 80% of the nomad community are employees. And so it
Correct.
comes
Okay.
easier because you know how much money comes in the end of the month. Yes, you should have some money because things will happen. Your laptop will
Yeah,
break in Bali, you'll twist your ankle in Brazil, and things
yeah,
will go wrong, and you'll miss some
yeah,
flights somewhere in the world.
yeah.
So it's always good to have extra money, of course. Don't do it if you are
Mm-hmm.
like just surviving. But I would say 2, 3 months if you're an employee, 2, 3 months of living, which is like 6K basically if you are an employee. If you're an
Yeah,
entrepreneur, I would say 10, 15K it's safer,
yeah,
because again, business can go wrong. The world is
yeah,
changing very fast.
yeah,
I know people that lost their business overnight was just with a Google update, and that's very scary as a business
yeah,
leader. So
yeah,
as a business leader, try to have a little bit more money because the risk is higher. Also, the reward is much higher. But I
yeah.
would say a little bit more money if you are a business leader. And then just go. I think one of the tip that people don't see is that go for a community first. What we saw in Madeira is that people that came to Madeira became long life nomads because they didn't feel the lonely side of nomadism. So when I
Hmm.
say travel between communities is because you are
Hmm.
traveling with like-minded people. If you go today
Yeah.
to a place there is no community, I don't know, uh, any place in the center of Spain right now, and you go there, it's beautiful, but you are alone the whole day. You cannot meet people. You don't speak Spanish. That's
Hmm.
a bad experience. If you go to
Yeah.
Madeira, if you come to Las Palmas, if you go to Bali, the community is there. It's easy to meet
Yeah.
people. And so my biggest suggestion is go to a community first, spend there 2 months in the minimum, get to meet everybody, go to all the events, and then
Hmm.
you are officially inside the nomad movement.
Yeah, pretty cool. And talking from like a more corporate standpoint, or how businesses are changing hiring styles. I was going through some of your LinkedIn posts that you also, I think, assist companies and advise them on retention and acquisition, talent attraction. So, in terms of that, what are some trends that we are observing? And I asked this question from a very um, young employee kind of a mindset, or somebody who's, say, in their early to mid 20s or 30s, who's trying to adopt a digital nomad lifestyle. So, from an employer point of view, how do I make it easier for them? And there's actually two parts to this question. So, from the employee's point of view, also that you're hiring somebody, but what's the surety that they stay with you? So, the attraction and the retention, both sides of it.
It's fun because when you put remote and you actually mean it when the in the job boards, you receive automatically 10 times more applicants than if the job is on. If people have to go to the office. So just
Mm,
by putting a word remote and allowing people to do their best work, whatever they are, you're already attracting the
yeah,
best talent in the world, not the best talent in your city. So you're already winning just by putting the word remote. That's how powerful this is, right? You don't even
yeah.
have to do it well. You just need to put the
Mm.
word and then pray for the things to go well, which is
Yeah,
a kind of a crazy world. If you want to do
yeah.
it well, then you should be speaking about asynchronous communication. How can you
Okay.
communicate with a
Yeah.
global team? How
Mm,
can life, like the whole communication cannot be in real time? It has to be asynchronous. How can you
mm.
document so people get access to knowledge wherever they are and don't have to
Yeah.
constantly ask questions to the colleagues that will interrupt everybody's work? Then the colleague is in India, I'm in Portugal, he's
Mm,
finished the
mm,
work when
mm.
I'm starting. That's a whole headache. We need proper documentation and then just proper project management and who has to do what when, right?
Correct.
So if you have that in place, super simple, not so
Mm,
easy, you are already on track, not just to attract the best employees in the world, but to retain the best employees in the world. Because right now, especially our generation, we want to do our own
mm.
work, we want ownership of the
Yeah.
work, and we want to deliver
Correct.
when we want to work. So I don't want to work from 9 to 5. After
Mm.
lunch, I don't operate, for example.
Okay.
My brain just shuts down for like 5
For me,
p.m.
it's before
And
lunch.
so really? So before lunch, I'm very strong until 11 a.m. And then my brain just
Yeah.
decides, now I'm going away. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
your work today. And then
Yeah.
it's usually starts up again at 5, something like that, 5 p.m. And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
want to work a
Okay.
lot in the morning. I prefer to block my
Mm.
morning, not have calls, and then in the
Mm.
afternoon do all my calls and do more social work if I have to actually work.
Yeah.
And then usually at night, I'm also already working because my daughter goes to sleep at 9:30, so I can
Okay.
still do like 1 hour of like
Mm.
answering emails, see what I want to do the
Mm.
next day. And I'm okay with that. I don't believe in a
Mm.
9 to 5.
Okay.
So employers need to understand that the 9 to 5 is completely trash because nobody works and is able to focus for 8 hours straight
Yeah.
a day.
Yeah.
It's a lie. You work for two
Definitely.
hours. I
Yeah.
believe that most people work for 2 hours a day, but they're on the laptop for 8 hours, which is a huge waste of time.
Yeah.
And so we need to allow people more freedom, this non-linear workday. That's a big trend that Darren Murph started.
Yeah.
And I think it's true. The non-linear workday is the best. I cannot sit for more than 4 hours and be productive
Yeah.
at all. It's impossible
Right.
for me. And most people are the same.
Mm.
So if your company is really, really good, you will allow people to work when they are most productive so they can give more
Mm.
value to your company, not just put them seated for 8 hours straight and pray for
Yeah.
the best because you can control when they work, right?
Correct.
So that's an employer side. For the employee, honestly, it's a
Mm.
lot about mitigate risk. The employers, the companies are afraid of risk, they're afraid of being
Right.
sued. And so there are some tools that you can use to be easier for them to allow you to work from anywhere. One of them is your
Okay.
contract. So if you are a full time employee, it's very, very hard for your employer to actually
Mm.
give you the full freedom to work from anywhere. They can allow you to work remotely, but from specific countries. And the
Okay.
reason is taxes for them. So there is a lot of problems they can have if they're American with taxes, even if they're European,
Right.
like Germans can only allow you to work 3 months a year. So the way around it is actually to become a contractor. So instead of having a full time job, you have to have your own company and you give an invoice to them in exchange of actually do the work. It's pretty much the same, but you actually have to create your own company, you do your own taxes, and everything goes well. So that's the way around because then you are not a subject of the laws of that country. You are
Correct.
only a subject of the laws of the country where you have your company, but you still work all the work, but then the
Yeah.
company is not liable for insurance for everything that can go
Mm.
wrong, and they don't want to risk huge lawsuits around that or issues with the IRS and the government.
It does make the employees a bit more expensive because then they factor in their own insurances and their own tax liabilities and the yeah. So I think there's both sides to it.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah,
So
yeah. But also you can optimize. Imagine any person can open a company in Estonia or move to Dubai, and then you have zero
yeah,
percent taxes, right? So it's like
yeah,
if you live in Portugal, maybe it's a bad idea to go and have a company in Portugal. But in
yeah.
1 month, you can become an e-citizen of Estonia and have a really cool company in
Okay.
Estonia, everything remotely without ever setting foot in Estonia.
Really? It's that easy.
It's that easy. Like after you have, it's 1 month just to have the citizen card, the e-citizen card of
Mm.
Estonia.
Okay.
Then you can open a company in a couple of hours.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. So, like, in
Yeah.
terms of ease of doing business or ease of, nomadism, according to you, what are the top countries that people could look at? And I'm talking about not necessarily somebody with a stable income, but also somebody who just wants to, say experiment, probably somebody who's just 18 or 20 who wants to start their first experience like that of, okay, I want to be a digital nomad. And also
Mm.
ranging up to somebody who's like, say, 40, 45, and just wants to pivot into that kind of a lifestyle.
I think if you're young, you should volunteer a lot and do a lot of work
Okay.
for co-working, co-livings. I know
Mm-hmm.
so many co-living spaces are looking for volunteers, especially for community management and social media. Because if you're an
Okay.
entrepreneur, nobody has time to do social media. So
Mm.
if you are a volunteer and you are 20 years right now, you grew up with TikTok, you grew up with editing video.
Mm. Yeah.
Go do it. People pay you for that. Go
Yeah.
create, go to a co-living space, create content every single day for them. Open an
Yeah.
agency for yourself. Show your work with a
Mm.
co-living space and create your own business. If you are 20 years
Right.
old, I would be creating TikToks every day, 5 TikToks a
Okay.
day, for as a volunteer. Give me a house, give me some food. I'll create 2 TikToks per day for you, 3 for me, and we will both become much happier and richer by the end of this experience.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very
I wish I
cool.
was younger. If you like me are a little bit older, you are like
Yeah.
37 and you are making
Mm.
good money, then I think countries are a little bit different. Then you can choose a country that's a little bit more expensive, like Portugal, like Madeira Island, for example. And then you
Mm-hmm.
can have a really high quality life with the Europe infrastructure. That's probably the best infrastructure in
Mm.
the world, while
Yeah.
spending a little bit more money. Or South America. South America is
Mm.
amazing. There is some countries like Pipa in Brazil is super safe, tropical paradise. So if you want to surf and play beach tennis every day, that's Pipa. If you want to hike in the most beautiful places in the world, that's Madeira. If you want to do nothing in your life, no, no, no. There's like amazing cities like Buenos Aires, Rio, Lisbon.
Oh, nice.
I know,
Okay.
but yeah, it really depends. So if you have money, you have more choices, of course.
Yeah.
But
Of course. Yeah.
I would say Europe then becomes very interesting, and Costa
Mm.
Rica becomes very interesting. Costa Rica is one of the
Mm.
best countries in the world, but it's also one of the most expensive. So
Okay.
it's really, really good if you have money. It's not so good if you don't have money.
Yeah.
And if you don't have money and you are starting this journey, Bansko in Bulgaria is a great place to start. Romania is also super cheap.
Very
Thailand is
cool.
also super cheap if you want some flavor of Asia. Thailand is
Yeah.
super cheap. All this you can do with less than 1,000 euros per month, complete with
Wow.
housing, food, and everything in between. So, yeah, that's really cool as well. You can choose where to go, and you certainly can go much bigger if you are in
Mm.
Thailand or Vietnam
Yeah.
than if you are in Portugal, of course.
Yeah, I'll come back to Pipa and Brazil and the work that you're doing with Rio. But there's a question that I want to ask you when you say all of this. There's also the passport privilege, right? So if you have the European passport, moving around and working in different countries is so much easier. But me, for example, I have an Indian passport, and I have fairly managed to do a lot of traveling around and digital nomadism because I'm on an entrepreneur visa. But if somebody who is coming from a country, the passport is not very strong, are there any hacks or are there a different set of countries that they should be looking at, or probably a different strategy that they need to have in mind, or what is the game plan behind that?
Two things. If you already make money, sorry, if you make good money already, then you should try first a nomad visa or entrepreneur visa like you
Okay.
did. And I
Yeah.
think we have 65 countries. I did a report on this
Hmm.
65 countries with the nomad
Oh
visa,
wow.
including Portugal, including Brazil, including now Thailand is the newest one, and many Japan just launched this year as
Mm.
well, or is launching this year. So you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
65 countries who want to attract nomads, who created visas for nomads, where basically you have to show that you earn more than X, depending on the country. In
Yeah.
Portugal, it's two salaries, I think. So
Yeah.
it's like 3,000 and something
Yeah.
euros per month. And then you have a visa for
Mm-hmm.
Portugal, then you have access to Europe. But
Right.
if I had an Indian passport, I'll be looking for a second passport. And you can do it. So there is a whole strategy behind it, of course. But you can go for a second passport. I don't know the specifics of the countries. But for example, I learned that Argentina, if you live there for 2 years, you have access to
Mm-hmm.
citizenship, meaning passport,
Okay.
which is probably it's not way better than the Indian one. But imagine if you are from Iraq, Iran. I have many friends from
Yeah.
Iran that
Yeah.
are suffering. This is a solution for
Right.
them. In
Mm.
Europe, I think Spain has one of the easiest accesses to
Yeah.
becoming a resident
Digital.
than a citizen. So both with the nomad
Mm-hmm.
visa and that gives you access to become a citizen in a fair amount of years. So just
Yeah.
look at all this. There's many information online, but you should
Yeah.
have a second passport. Even if you are from Europe, I want a second
Yeah.
passport from South America because I travel a lot in South America. I'm
Yeah.
building lots of projects now in Brazil, so I want a
Mm.
passport from South America that allows me to move in South America without having to worry
Yeah.
with visas if I overstayed, etc. Because it's a headache, as you know better than me, of
Yeah.
course. So I
Yeah.
really want to have this second passport to give me access to the whole region that is in
Yeah.
South America.
That sounds pretty amazing, except for the fact that India doesn't allow two passports. So yeah, I am assuming that's a problem for, like, yeah. So if I take another passport, I'll have to give up my Indian passport, and doesn't make sense at this point.
Like the
But yeah.
Americans, no.
Yeah. So coming to your project in Brazil, what's happening? What are you doing? What's that project about?
So I think people start going a lot to South America. I see it already, and I launched Pipa 2 years ago, 1 year and a half ago, which
Okay.
is a small village in the northeast of Brazil, surf town. Everybody with flip flops,
Mm,
everybody working
nice.
without t-shirt. Is that kind of place. And now I'm working with the city of Rio de Janeiro, Rio, probably the
Okay.
craziest, best, funniest city in the world. And we are now building the community there of digital nomads to actually be able to have this structure around digital nomadism, working with
Right.
communities, working with the local NGOs, working with the co-workings and the co-living spaces, and gather
Mm,
everything and starting to create events pretty much every week for now, but then from December, every day.
mm.
So it's very exciting to work with one of the biggest cities in the world. Honestly, it's
Wow,
chaos,
that's
it's
pretty cool.
madness.
Yeah.
I was used to Madeira, which is like 250,000 people, and now I'm working for a
Mm.
city that has like 6 million people or something like that. So
Wow.
it's a slight change. It's slightly different, but it's super
Yeah.
fun. So I'm very excited for Brazil, very excited for South America.
What's also interesting is because digital nomadism, it of course brings together people and it's good for the local economies, but also for local businesses and all of that. So, with regards to that, what is the kind of attention that we need to pay towards local tourism also and sustainable means of developing communities? Because from my point of view, what I see is that if I lived in Bali, if I were a local in Bali, then it would soon come to a point where I would feel like, it's the same case everywhere that people are on my land and this doesn't really belong to them. So, what are we doing? Or what do we need to do to make sure that we don't hit that roadblock? Because that would be a challenge.
Yeah, Bali is an extreme case because so many people move to Bali, not necessarily just nomads. And I
Yeah.
separate a lot nomads and expats in this conversation
Okay.
because
Yeah.
what we're speaking about in this case, all these people are coming to my land. Usually, we're talking about expats.
Mm.
So imagine
Okay.
countries, for example, Spain has a lot of expats. People like million, I think
Hmm.
1 million people are moving to Spain every year, and that has
Yeah.
problems, specific problems around accommodation, around sustainability, around all neighborhoods now becoming ex neighborhoods, meaning I know Chinese town, etc. And so this
Yeah.
segregation is not good for anyone at all. So I think we
Right.
need better projects to integrate immigrants 100%.
Mm.
But when we speak
Mm.
about nomadism, we speak a lot about
Hmm.
people that travel and stay on average for 2 months, and then you
Right.
have to have different I think we need to be careful with different things. For example, it doesn't make sense to travel in the high season, right? You are not
Okay.
there is no good for us because
Mm,
prices are more expensive,
mm,
but to local businesses. So imagine if you want to come to Portugal, don't come on the summer, come from
yeah.
October to May because price is going to be cheaper. And then
Okay.
don't go to Lisbon, honestly. Like Lisbon is super expensive right now, full of
Yeah. Yeah.
tourists, doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. Half an hour from Lisbon, you have Ericeira, which is almost empty in the low
Okay.
season. You go south, two
Mm,
hours south, you are in Algarve, where the conference is, and it's like
okay.
seaside, white sand beach. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
And you are 2 hours from Lisbon. So don't go to places that are full of tourists. And if
Mm,
you go,
okay.
if you end up going, like try to go to the local places. I always say that nomads like to go to these local beer places that they are the only
Mm,
foreigners. I think we do have that for our community. People
mm,
try to go to these more local places. The only really foreign places we like to go is the cafes. We are suckers
mm.
for avocado toasts and special coffee. But other than that, we
Yeah.
really want to try the culture. We really want to go to the
Yeah.
local restaurants, not to these big restaurants. So if you are traveling somewhere, try not to support these tourist traps. Try to go to the local
Mm,
places where the locals are going. If there aren't too many tourists,
yeah.
go to some other place. And I think we have this superpower of supporting the whole local economy from hairdressers to everything in between. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
let the tourists do mass tourism and ruin their own specific areas of the cities. You should go to different places and be very mindful of supporting the local businesses. And if you can, and in places like Madeira, in places like Korea, we have this opportunity available. Integrate in the
Mm,
local community through sports, through the local nomad
yeah.
leadership, because we build bridges to help you volunteer. For example, in Madeira, you can
Oh, okay.
support dog shelters by walking dogs, which is super cool.
Mm,
You hike, you
yeah.
support dog shelters. It's so important for them. We do
Mm,
so many actions around kids. For example, in Brazil, we went to work a lot with kids in favelas to help them learn English because only 4% of Brazilians speak English. So we need to
wow.
help all these Brazilians to accommodate English so they can have more tourism and more opportunities. Because we have
Yeah.
incredible talent in Brazil, 230 million people. But if they don't speak
Mm,
English, their options are very limited when it comes to
missed
remote work,
opportunity.
traveling, learning from the world, right? So it's all those
Right.
little things that we should be careful. Just try to live like a local. I think that's the best option, and don't
Mm,
travel in
mm,
high
mm,
season.
mm.
If you do good things and try to integrate, that's more than 90% is doing.
Yeah. 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 That's pretty cool. And talking about family and nomadism, how does that fit in?
So I have a baby daughter. So backstory:
Okay.
this morning we had a
Yeah.
podcast trying to record a podcast,
Yeah.
and I had to postpone because I was alone with my daughter. She's 1 year and 4 months old, and
Oh,
my
okay.
wife was late to come back home. She only came back like 40 minutes later, and so I had to
Mm,
postpone our podcast for now because actually, yeah, I was alone with the baby. So
mm.
the hard part is having a baby anywhere. I think that's like traveling with a baby is easy. Having the baby is the hard part. This is very important. And then it's just like, then you don't have the network of support. Like if we were with my parents or with Katarina parents, my
Yeah, of
wife, you
course.
have
Yeah.
a network
Yeah.
of support. Just leave the babies with them. We don't have it. So we are the two of us. You
Mm,
can have a babysitter. We don't like it so far because she's very young, only not
yeah.
even 1 year and a half. So basically, it's all on us, which means like we cannot go to the gym together. We have to separate
Mm,
schedules. Now you work, now I
yeah.
work. Now you go to the gym, now I go to the gym. That's a challenging part,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
when she grows up it's going to be much easier. And but it's
Yeah.
fun. I think we are getting older, like my generation of, I'm not even the first generation of nomads, I'm like the second. We are getting
Yeah.
older and most of us are thinking about having babies. So I think in the next 5 years
Mm.
we will see the conferences full of nomad babies just hanging out in English or Japanese or
Yeah.
Chinese or
Yeah.
Spanish,
So cool.
and they will all hang out together at the beach of Albufeira and playing
Mm.
together while the parents drink a beer and learn about business.
Nice. Pretty cool. I remember I met this couple in when I was living in Bali. They moved, I think, sometime during the pandemic, and they just never left because that's how much they loved it. And they were just talking about their friends who have kids and who are full-time digital nomads. And according to them, the kind of holistic upbringing that a child gets when you are exposed to real life and you're moving around, you're experiencing life as it is, apparently, according to them, those children are much nicer than the ones who grew up in cities, in like, study in institutions, and they have a preference, clear
Yeah,
preference to homeschooling kids and letting them grow in the wild kind of lifestyle. And that was really
yeah.
inspiring because, sorry, you were saying something.
No, 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 no. I was just agreeing, but we have a slight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So for me, that was really inspiring because, parents are also buying into that narrative. And exactly like you said earlier, that, how much do we need? And we need to consume less and, be more mindful and chase experiences rather than things. So it is a wonderful revolution that we're seeing in the whole space of nomadism also. So, yeah, I mean, this whole conversation. Sorry, again, you're trying to say something. I keep cutting you out. Go ahead.
No, no, no. Actually, not. It's just like I think we're creating this new breed of global citizens. I always say to people,
Yeah,
if you are racist because you never visit the country from the person you have this bias
yeah,
again. So it's impossible to be racist
yeah.
again Africans if you go to Cabo Verde, because you go there, you drink a beer with them. We are all pretty much the same. We have cultural differences,
Mm,
but we are pretty much the
mm,
same. It's impossible to be
mm.
racist against anyone. If you go to the country, you meet the locals, you became
Yeah,
automatically a fan of that person. And this happens
yeah.
globally. I've been everywhere. I built communities in Africa, in Cabo Verde, in Asia, in South America, in Europe. It's the same. Like even as we have as an European, like my wife had bias because she grew up in a place that had like only white people. And when we went to Africa for 6 months for Cabo Verde, and she was like, "Oh shit, I'm not comfortable. Like I'm not used to this."
Yeah,
I was like, "Yeah, that's good,"
yeah,
because after 2 weeks she was comfortable. So all the
yeah.
biases that she had because of the culture went away
Mm.
in 2 weeks living in a
Amazing.
country
Yeah,
where people are not like her and she was the different one. And that's so important.
Mhm.
So imagine this with kids. If you are growing
Yeah.
since they were born, like my baby have been to 3 continents, and it's like she's growing up
Wow,
with seeing different people, different things. And for us, it's just she's curious about everything. And I think that's beautiful.
that's
So I
amazing.
think it's
Yeah.
if we can create this new generation of borderless kids, we'll create a new generation
Mm.
without all these preconceptions that so many people have just due to the lack of contact with people from different cultures and different parts of the world. The more we travel, not just
Yeah,
travel as tourists, the more we travel and connect with people, the less
yeah.
preconceptions we will have, and it will be impossible for people to be racist or whatever.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think for me, I'm towards the end of this lovely conversation that we've had, but I still have a segment where I'm gonna ask you some more fun questions from your experiences of being a digital nomad. But before we get to that part, is there anything important that you think we need to address in this conversation which we haven't touched on yet?
No, I think just do it. If you're on the fence, just try it out. Do it without risk,
Yeah,
meaning just keep your house and go 2 months
yeah,
to Bansko or to Bali or to Madeira or to Brazil. Go to a community and
yeah,
try it out for 2 months. Like if things go
yeah,
wrong, go back home.
yeah.
That's easy.
Pretty cool, yeah. And how many people and countries are you at the moment with Nomad X?
Oh, no idea. We want to build 50 communities. I think we are like officially, actively, I'm managing five. On our ecosystem, we
Mhm.
have like eight, but we are growing a lot. The
Okay.
ecosystem, not just
Wow.
the ones led by me. We want to partner with people building communities as well.
Okay, super cool, super cool. Yeah, that's very interesting to know. So now coming to the fun bit, all of this has been fun. First of all, thank you so much for sharing so much, and I love your energy and enthusiasm while you speak about the subject. So that's very refreshing, also. So, what was the strangest or most kind of, I wouldn't call it difficult, but a challenging experience while you were traveling in terms of, culture and different cultures throughout your travel and trying to integrate in a different locality.
Mm. Well, actually, I think it was traveling from Vietnam to Europe. I had a flight that had two layovers in China,
Okay.
and I was not able to board the flight because they said I needed a visa to do a layover in China. There was always this discussion, and we had to decide if we stay in Vietnam and lose the plane and all the money. And we were
Okay.
like, I it was this was 2 weeks after I decided to quit my job and become an entrepreneur. So we didn't have an
Okay.
unlimited supply of money. We had
Yeah,
very
yeah,
little money. So we had to decide or to get stuck in China and pray for the best, or to get stuck in Vietnam and try to figure out how to arrive to Europe and get new tickets for the
yeah.
next day, because I was speaking in 2 days in Europe, in Budapest. And so
Oh,
it was
okay.
very challenging to actually connect between the Vietnamese culture and the Chinese culture and try to
Mm,
navigate those two challenges at the same time, surrounded by
right,
people from China, because the first flight was going to China. Nobody
right,
speaks English. People were like,
right.
yeah, like they go against you with the carts in the airport. And I was like
Mm,
already annoyed with all the situation. So it was one of the biggest challenge I had to figure out the solution.
mm.
We ended up deciding to stay in Vietnam and to buy tickets for
Okay.
the next day, spending a lot of money and then struggling it a little bit later.
Yeah,
But it was very challenging. Imagine being in Vietnam on the other side of the world.
yeah.
I think it was like midnight, ready to board your first plane
Wow.
and
Yeah,
discovering that you cannot
yeah.
board the plane. You have to choose between getting stuck in Vietnam or getting stuck in China. I have no idea about China, about airports in China. So deciding, well,
Mm.
I better get stuck in Vietnam. It's a like at least I know I was here for 3 weeks. I know this place,
Yeah.
and try to figure out with high stress, surrounded by people that don't have the same culture
Mm.
as you are the outlier, people looking at you, not so happy, talking with a
Yeah.
lady. Yeah, it was very, very challenging, but we ended up traveling the next day, spending a lot of money, and ended up, yeah, coming to Europe, and things went well in the end.
That's a story now, so that's pretty cool.
And that's a cool story. Yeah. Don't do
Yeah.
layovers in China unless you have a visa. That's the main point of the story.
Yeah, lesson that we learn. Yeah. So my next question is that if you had to choose one country to live in forever as a digital nomad, which one would that be and why?
Do I have to pay taxes in that country?
That's why I asked why. So that's up to
So
you.
if it's
You
if
figure it
it's
out.
just living in a country without any tax problems and I can pay taxes anywhere else,
Yeah.
I would probably choose Brazil right now. Actually, it was between Brazil and Spain, and the reason is
Nice.
Brazil is huge. It has
Mm.
everything from weather like Europe to super hot weather, nature, waterfalls, Amazon forest, huge cities like Rio. So you have a little bit of everything, and I love to travel. So if I have to get stuck in a country, it's better be one of the
Mhm.
biggest ones, so I can travel inside the country. So I choose Brazil.
Okay. And how do you handle time zone challenges when you're working with teams around the world or as a digital nomad?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. So it makes it easier. I choose my own schedule, and
Mm.
I don't have a schedule. I work when I want, so that helps a
Mhm.
lot. And now I see I'm traveling more and more between Eastern Europe and South America instead of Asia. Asia makes things a little
Okay.
bit harder, especially Southeast Asia, like Bali, Thailand is 6 to 8 hours difference from Europe, which
Mm.
is where I work
Yeah.
the most. So I really like to stay between Brazil, which is minus 3 hours compared with Portugal, or plus minus 3 hours plus 3 hours is my happy zone right now to Europe.
Yeah.
Because between the US, I can speak with them. With Asia, it's afternoon there. I can have still have meetings with Thailand if I want to. So mostly, I decide
Mm.
where to live, also based on time zones and not having to work in crazy schedules. But right now,
Yeah.
I'm mostly between Western Europe, Portugal, Spain, and Brazil. So it's where I spend most of my time now.
Okay. So you've kind of architectured the whole lifestyle to suit you and you know what you that's pretty cool. Yeah. That's good
Yes.
advice. Yeah. And in terms of Wi-Fi connectivity, because not all places have good Wi-Fi. Have you ever encountered that problem as a digital nomad?
Yes. One of the reasons I try to go to places with the community and with co-working spaces is exactly if the community is there. I know the internet is good, and
Okay.
that's a huge green flag for us. So
Yeah.
we will never have a community if there is no good internet. That's the number one thing all nomads want. Anything above 70 megabytes is good. So it's not like we need
That's
one
pretty cool.
gigabyte of speed to be happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just avoid countries or places that don't have a stable internet. I can give you an example. Like in Brazil, there is this incredible village. I really want to do a project there, called Itacaré in Bahia in the
Okay.
Northeast. It's like crazy beautiful. It has perfect surf, amazing culture. It's everything you
Yeah.
wanted, except the internet is really, really bad and the energy is not
Mm.
stable. So we cannot do anything there until things are stable, internet and energy. So those are the things like I just choose very careful where I go,
Yeah.
especially traveling between communities, because I know if my people are there, it's a good place to be.
Mm. Yeah. And what, according to you, is the most underrated digital nomad destination currently?
Oh, well, I'll give you the biased answer, then I'll think in a better one. The biased answer is
Okay.
Brazil. Brazil is a country
Okay.
with 230 million people. It's
Right.
huge. It's crazy beautiful. It's madness that Brazil is not on the top three
Mm.
countries in the world for digital nomads. It's just pure madness because
Okay.
people just hear about Rio and Sao Paulo, and they just hear about the crime. They have no idea how actually happy that country is. It's
Nice.
insane. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
I would say a country that there are a couple of countries that will grow a lot in the next years. I think
Like.
Morocco is one of them.
Okay.
Morocco
Mm.
is going to be very, very interesting. Really incredible culture, close to Europe.
Yeah.
Lots of
Yeah.
people that are not from Schengen zone need to leave Schengen every 3 months, and they're looking for destinations around Europe that are not Schengen
Yeah.
zone. So I think Morocco is going to be one of them. I think Sri Lanka is going to be another one of them. I think
Okay.
Goa is going to be one of
Okay.
them. And I think El Salvador, because now it's super stable and
That's
super
lovely.
safe, can also be one of them. Like
Okay.
I'm talking about underground destinations that can become like top 20 in the next
Mm-hmm.
3 to 5 years.
Very cool. Very cool. And when you're traveling so much and meeting so many people around the world, making new friends and stuff, how do you stay connected to, like, because when you're traveling, you meet these amazing people who you might or might not see for the rest of your lives. So, is there a cost? Is there a sacrifice bit to it? And even with your friends and family at home, whatever you choose to call home. So, is that something you've struggled with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I personally don't because I have ADHD, which helps me a lot. Meaning, I can not see you for 2 years and see you and continue
Okay.
the conversation like if we had been
Amazing.
together for the
Yeah.
last 2 years. And I think
Yeah.
most of these nomads must have ADHD because if you are in this lifestyle for a while, basically
Mm.
I meet the same people over and over again, just in different parts of the
Okay.
world. So I'm
Yeah.
here in Las Palmas today. Friends from Switzerland are here. Friends
Mm.
from
Mm.
Egypt that I met in Madeira,
Okay.
Cabo Verde, and Brazil are here.
Nice.
So suddenly I have like that I met in 6 different countries meeting here. So I think you create your
Yeah.
friends as your circle of friendships as a nomad, and then you keep seeing the same people a little bit around the world, and you start to coordinate travel with your best friends, so you all to go together to Rio,
Mm.
and that makes it easier. I think that's the how we do friendship as a nomad. Homesick, that's a different factor. So I'm not as attached to my family, so for me it's quite easy. But for example, for my wife,
Mm.
she's very attached to family, so we try to be and to visit at least every 6 months if we are in Brazil,
Mhm.
or every
Okay.
couple of months if we are in Madeira or Las Palmas. If we're in Europe, we try to visit or fly them over to us if you are in Europe. In Brazil, usually we spend 5 months, and we try to not spend more than 6 months away, especially now with the baby. It's not even about us anymore.
Does productivity ever seem like an issue? Like, are there days where you feel that, okay, I don't feel inspired or, you know,
Oh
yeah?
yes, a lot of them. So because I'm an entrepreneur, I don't take vacations, and people tell me, "Gonçalo, you need to take vacations." I know, but it's hard, and I'm an entrepreneur and I'm ADHD, which is the worst
Yeah.
combination if you want to take vacations. I cannot do vacations. So what I'm building
Right.
into my life, and this is recent, is
Hmm.
actually I'm building December. I don't accept calls. So this doesn't
Okay.
mean that I'm not doing stuff, but the thing I
Mm-hmm.
dread the most in my life are the calls, are actually
Yeah.
meeting with a lot of people every day and talk about future
Yeah.
projects. This is very draining for me. I love to sit down and write a whole project if I feel inspired, or if I'm
Got
not,
it.
go to the beach and play beach volleyball. So I like that. That's fun. That's
That's
not work
cool.
for me.
Yeah.
Answering emails and having calls, that's work. And so my concept of
Yeah.
vacations is usually during the whole December or 3 weeks of December, because nothing is happening in
Yeah.
December. It's Christmas, people are traveling, not much is happening. I
Hmm.
completely disconnect from email and calls. So if you want to speak with me from the 5th of January, I'm usually online again. But I still do my own
Yeah.
stuff. I still write. I still post on LinkedIn if I feel like it. I do whatever I want, and I
Yeah.
really like to work and what I do. So usually it
That's
involves work.
amazing.
And when I'm really burning out, I just stop, which is quite cool. So, for example, we are speaking in August. It's quite challenging. We are 8 months into the year, lots of stuff. I moved
Mm.
from places. I did so many events this year. I traveled so much for conferences. It was truly wild. I think I did like 25 flights in 3 months, but something like that, something stupid
Wow.
like that.
Okay.
It's too
Yeah.
much. So I kind of burn out a little bit of all the flying
Yeah.
and meeting people. And this conference has 10,000 people. That has 30,000 people. It's like, what the hell? I was waking up without knowing where I was, which is insane. And so now it's August, and I decided to take, like, I'm not traveling for the whole month. I'm just in Las Palmas. I'm working out every day. I'm doing this fitness co-living,
Nice.
and I
Yeah.
just want to work out, recover my body, and not travel. This is my goal for
That's
the
good.
whole
Yeah.
August. So it's like also
Yeah, that's
understanding the
good.
seasonality, right? You have the season of conferences, which for me is huge, and you have the season where you say, I'm not traveling. So in December, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
Brazil, and I hope not to
Mm.
travel much for the whole 5, 6 months I'll be in Brazil. I want to be in Rio, I want to be in Pipa, but that's pretty much it. I'm not accepting conferences unless they are in Rio. I'm not accepting anything for those 5 months.
That's pretty cool. Think you find your own balance when you have a life like that. Last two questions.
Yeah,
Last
you
two
have to.
questions.
It's like go for it.
Yeah. So, at what moment did you have this thought that, okay, this is what the digital nomad life is all about? This is it.
I think it was in Bali when I was having a dinner with people I met at the
Mm.
co-working space, and the whole conversation was
Okay.
global taxes. That's it.
Oh, wow. I love
Because
that
most of our
conversation.
conversations, exactly, because imagine I had my first group of friends in Bali was all entrepreneurs. I was the most poor
Yeah.
person they ever met, probably. And it's
Yeah.
like people with a startup in Singapore, a huge entrepreneur from Canada, a huge entrepreneur, a
Mm.
VP of a huge company, plus he had more companies on the side. And we worked really, really hard, but every day at 5:30, we leave the co-working space, we go for sunset at the beach. We drink
Mm.
some coconuts or some beers or whatever you want, and then we went for
Nice.
lunch, for
Yeah.
dinner every single day. And then most of
Wow.
us went back to work. And so our conversations, imagine all these people from different sides of the world, Italy, Canada,
Mm.
Germany, Singapore, we gather at
Mm.
dinner, and our teams of conversation was marketing, global taxation, how to set up a
Mm.
global tax structure for your company, how to
Yeah.
grow through, how to optimize click rates. And I was in
Yeah.
Bali after 1 month, like just enjoying this conversation. Like, damn, this is it. Being in Bali allowed me to connect with these people I would never connect if I was living in Lisbon in my small community. And that was the moment,
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is it. This is why I'm a
This is
digital
it.
nomad.
Nice. That's a very good answer. I think for me also, it was when I was in Bali last year. And I remember coming back to Paris after, I think it was 6 weeks that I spent there. And I love my home. I've been living in my this house for like 6 years now. And I remember waking up the next morning and I was in the living room and I'm like, I need to get out of here, like because Bali did that to me and I met so many amazing people and the conversations were so different. And I was like, that's the world where I need to be because, at home things get comfortable. The conversations are kind of the same. Like you're not talking about professional growth, you're not talking about actual goals that you want to chase. And, you don't really find your community, as you said. So, I 100% get that. And it's so interesting because for most people, it's Bali, like Bali does that. So they go to Bali for a month and they come back and they're like, wow. And fast forward to today, I'm like, I'm moving to Japan very soon. So I'm like, okay, wow. It took me 1 year, but yeah, I'm getting into the, flow and trying to figure out my base still. But yeah, that is it. So last
It's so
question to
good.
you, Gonzalo, is yeah, I was saying the last question to you is that what's the best piece of advice you ever received from another digital nomad? And also what you would want to give forward to people.
Oh, wow. I'm not very good receiving advice. No, it was like also like in my first year, I was an employee. and everybody was telling me, you are not an employee, you need to leave this idea and you need to leave your
Yeah.
job and become an entrepreneur. And again, I was surrounded
Yeah.
by entrepreneurs, but in the first time I went to Asia, I was still an employee. And everybody kept saying me, you are not an employee, you are not an employee. You have to
Mm.
create your business. You have to create your business. It's very hard, but it's worth it. And it took me like 1 year, but I did it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
Nice.
creating my business is literally the best thing I did because of the impact I can have, because of the money I can have, and also
Yeah.
because I do whatever I want when I want it. I don't really think
Mm.
about this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. I need to work these
Yeah.
hours. If I want to go to the beach at 4 p.m., which is what I'm doing right after this call, this is what I do, and I don't really
Yeah.
care. And if I want to work
Nice.
12 hours straight, I'm working for me. And if I
Yeah.
want to create, I don't have to answer again, this is my ADHD, but I don't have to answer for something that I don't believe in. I only build things I really believe in, and I don't have
Amazing.
to answer
Yeah.
for it. I do what I want. I do what I want to see in the world. Sometimes I fail, sometimes I succeed. As long as I have money to
Mm.
feed my daughter and myself, we're good.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. And that's the same advice. I assume you would give the same advice forward that anybody who's looking at that path, they just need to go for it. And
I think so. I think it's. I think actually for most people that are in this lifestyle is find your community, find your tribe. Because I see there's a lot of new people in the nomad space that started with COVID.
mm,
And because they started with COVID, they don't really understand how this space works in terms of community. That you have to give before you receive, that you have to go to
yeah.
places and organize your events, that you have to go to
Mm,
events and be an active part of it. That's not about you,
yeah.
that's about the
Yeah.
community. So I think actually the best advice I can give to people starting or that are in this lifestyle for a long time is go to communities, give something. Don't just ask. I see I have people all the time coming to our Slack communities and I need this, I need that. Like, what do you have to
Mm,
give? Nothing. You just
yeah.
come here
Yeah.
and ask.
Yeah.
Like, you're out. So go to communities, give
Yeah.
something, give your knowledge, give your time. Like your knowledge is so powerful. Just give something first.
Yeah.
Be part of something.
Yeah.
And then if you have to ask, ask. But if you don't give, nobody will give you anything as well. And if you give, usually it comes back to you like 10x. It comes back to you much bigger than you gave before.
Yeah. 100% agree. Gonzalo, this was a wonderful conversation. In this season, this has been the longest episode that I've recorded. So thank you so much for sharing so
It's,
much. It was an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I look forward to listening to more of your adventures. I look forward to maybe not this year, but soon in the future, attending one of your conferences and being a part of the community. And is there anything that you would like to say before we stop recording?
I think everybody should post in the comments everywhere this is posted. Please
Yeah.
try come to the Nomad World. We put you on stage if you come. Post here. Post in the comments everywhere, everywhere. We need you in Algarve sharing your knowledge and sharing your experience with the world.
Ah, that's amazing. That's so kind of you. I hope to be there. Let's see. Let's see what I'm doing in October. So thank you. I'm just going to stop recording and then we can chat for a couple of minutes. Yeah. Thank you.